Orion felt his heart accelerate slightly as he gazed into the now open compendium. Each page pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat, showing words of forbidden knowledge and immense power. Lumi's voice filled with astonishment and quiet admiration. "Master, you really did it." Orion smirked lightly and asked in a teasing tone, "Did you doubt me?" She giggled softly, clearly relieved and proud. "Never, Master. But be careful, it's the blood element after all, it comes under the darkness camp." Orion nodded his head yet still said, "I have mastered enough elements that this won't affect me. Especially wood." He took a slow, deep breath, his eyes focused firmly on the gently pulsating pages of the Sanguine Sage Compendium. The book seemed almost alive, each crimson-hued page emanating a rhythmic, faintly sinister aura. He settled himself comfortably onto the lush grass beneath him, crossing his legs and steadying his breathing as he turned his complete attention to the tome. While looking at the book, he began turning the pages, the runic symbols glowing softly beneath his fingertips. He was immediately met with intricate text detailing the very nature of the blood element itself. Orion's dual-colored eyes flickered across the lines rapidly, absorbing each piece of profound knowledge with fervent curiosity. Blood, the essence of life and vitality, yet equally the herald of death and decay. Mastery of blood requires understanding of its dual nature, nourishment and destruction, healing and corruption. To wield the blood element is to command the life force itself, harnessing the very pulse that drives all living beings. Orion paused briefly, deeply intrigued by the elemental explanation. His thoughts wandered momentarily, recalling Valerian's peak mastery of this dark yet powerful element. His expression hardened with resolve, determination blazing fiercely within his chest. Continuing further, he encountered detailed theories about blood circulation, vitality manipulation, and life force extraction. Orion mentally compared this knowledge against his experiences with other elements, rapidly connecting dots and deepening his comprehension. Each sentence built upon the last, unlocking insights into how the blood element interacted uniquely with both darkness and life attributes, offering unparalleled flexibility and formidable potential. Turning another page, he found the detailed structural diagram of the blood affinity rune. Orion leaned closer, eyes carefully scanning the intricately drawn diagrams. It was composed of powerful primary runes, intricately arranged around the central core rune blood, all carefully balanced by stabilizing runes. The complexity was immediately evident, far more intricate than standard elemental runes he had previously studied. "This is fascinating," Orion murmured softly, his eyes shining with excitement. The runic arrangement directly integrates both blood extraction and vitality manipulation. No wonder blood users are formidable. Lumi chimed in gently, her voice filled with admiration and slight worry. "It's incredible, Master, but be cautious. The blood element is known to sway its user toward a darker path." Orion smiled confidently, his voice calm. "I know, Lumi. But remember, I'm different. I'll control this, not the other way around." Reassured, Lumi giggled softly. "I believe in you, Master." Returning to his studies, Orion delved deeper into the compendium, absorbing each spell carefully described from Tier 1 upward. He noted that even the lower-tier spells like Blood Needle and Lesser Blood Bind possessed unique and flexible applications, ideal for controlling or restricting enemy movements. As he continued upward through higher-tier spells, his awe grew with every page turned. Advanced spells such as Crimson Vitality Transfusion allowed the user to drain an enemy's life force and redirect it to heal oneself or allies. Even higher-tier spells like Blood Prison and Hemorrhaging Nova held terrifying power capable of dominating entire battlefields. When Orion's eyes finally landed upon spells ranked beyond Tier 9, like the ominous Sanguine Apocalypse, he felt a chill run down his spine despite himself. The sheer destructive capability of these techniques was astonishingly fearsome, capable of razing entire kingdoms or corrupting whole regions irreversibly. "I see now why the blood element is both coveted and feared," Orion whispered, eyes solemn yet filled with excitement for its incredible potential. "It's a dual-edged sword, capable of healing yet terrifyingly destructive in equal measure." As the hours passed by, Orion remained utterly absorbed, carefully memorizing each spell structure and nuanced detail within the compendium. Occasionally, he'd pause, closing his eyes and visualizing himself integrating these profound spells with his current battle style. Eventually, after 4 to 5 hours of intense focus, Orion closed the Sanguine Sage compendium, exhaling slowly as he processed everything he'd read. He felt quite enriched, his comprehension of the blood element now immensely deeper than before. That should be enough for now, Orion murmured softly, gently placing the book back into his inventory. It's time to see how the World Tree seed has progressed. He closed his physical eyes and dived once more into the vast expanse of his sea of consciousness. Upon entry, Orion immediately noticed the breathtaking scene before him. The World Tree sprout stood prominently, nearly finished absorbing the Prime Realm core fragment's immense energies. Its silhouette radiated brilliantly, bathing Orion's sea of consciousness in vibrant, multicolored hues. The crimson-golden leaf of fire shimmered proudly, blazing brightly with overwhelming vitality, while the thunder leaf crackled with brilliance, arcs of lightning flickering gracefully around it. But now, new tiny leaves had begun budding delicately along the central stem, each leaf subtly glowing with different colors, faint yet distinct, representing Orion's myriad elemental affinities. As the last streams of the core fragment's energy were slowly absorbed, Orion could clearly see his sea of consciousness expanding gently, healing completely as if it were never damaged. He looked at himself and clearly felt the energies that were about to be completely assimilated anytime. Almost there, Orion murmured softly with immense satisfaction. This evolution truly surpasses anything I could have imagined. Lumi's voice resonated softly in agreement, happiness evident in her tone. Master, it's beautiful. Your sea of consciousness has been entirely rejuvenated. As Orion marveled at the serene transformation within his sea of consciousness, the World Tree seedling pulsed softly one final time, absorbing the last threads of potent energy from the Prime Realm core fragment. The seedling trembled gently, its leaves rustling in an invisible breeze, before a surge of overwhelming pure mana erupted forth, radiating outward in a brilliant cascade of prismatic colors. Orion's eyes widened in pleasant surprise as the pure mana expanded and seamlessly fused with every corner of his sea of consciousness, turning the vast internal expanse into a realm of perfect stability and crystalline clarity. The previously turbulent energies now flowed harmoniously, gently nourishing the entire SOC. This is incredible. Orion whispered, his spiritual form shimmering vibrantly from the influx of pure mana. He hurriedly turned his attention toward his affinity runes, knowing instinctively that this moment would profoundly affect them. However, before he could move, he felt a subtle tug from within the World Tree seedling. A spark of gentle golden light emerged from its core, swiftly growing brighter and clearer. With astonishment, Orion felt the familiar flicker of his life fire ignition stage soul essence, carefully emerging from within the seedling itself. What? Orion gasped aloud, visibly startled. I thought my soul had merged entirely with the seed, how is this possible? Upon closer observation, Orion quickly realized something profound had occurred, his soul had actually been split into two distinct portions. The luminous golden form floating was himself, representing only a small fraction of his soul, while the vast majority was now peacefully residing within the World Tree seedling. It was as if his very essence had become an intrinsic part of the majestic seedling itself. A soul split? Orion murmured softly with wonder in his voice. He understood immediately the implications. The larger, more significant portion of his soul had been integrated with the World Tree, becoming an integral part of it. Despite the monumental implications of this revelation, Orion shook his head decisively, reminding himself there was no time to ponder this mystery further. Turning swiftly toward his affinity runes, his heart nearly leaped from excitement and anticipation as he saw them beginning to crack and fracture spontaneously under the immense pressure of the pure mana. Perfect timing! Orion exclaimed joyously, immediately rushing forward toward his cracking affinity runes, fire, thunder, and wood, each vibrating intensely, clearly approaching a crucial transformative juncture. Seeing this golden opportunity, Orion swiftly reached out, actively guiding and accelerating the destructive energies surrounding his runes. He decisively shattered the existing rune structures, allowing the fragmented remnants to dissolve entirely into sparkling motes of elemental essence. He quickly drew from his profound knowledge of runes, immediately visualizing far more intricate and powerful structures. With focus, Orion began reforging each affinity rune, carefully incorporating 12 primary runes into every element, surpassing his previous 9 rune constructions significantly. His hands and spiritual consciousness moved seamlessly, each rune precisely carved and integrated into new and superior runic matrices. First came fire, blazing brightly as it resonated fiercely with Orion's Fire Dragon Emperor heritage. Next, thunder crackled magnificently, radiating explosive power and majestic presence. Lastly, wood emerged with graceful elegance, pulsating gently with life and profound vitality. As each new affinity rune took shape, Orion's excitement continued to soar. 12 primary runes each, this will be quite something, he whispered, eyes glinting with anticipation. The upgraded runes pulsed powerfully, significantly elevating the stability, capacity, and output potential of his elemental abilities. The abundant pure mana, still radiating outward from the World Tree seedling, quickly stabilized the newly forged runes, swiftly harmonizing them within his sea of consciousness. Orion felt a tremendous surge of strength and clarity flood his spiritual form, the foundations for his next breakthrough rapidly solidifying. "This is it," Orion declared, his voice strong and resolute. He quickly shifted his focus toward breaking through to the 4th level in his mana cultivation, immediately channeling the abundant pure mana into his expanding mana channels. His entire sea of consciousness resonated powerfully, the environment stabilizing beautifully around him. Orion's mental focus sharpened immensely, his spiritual senses carefully guiding each strand of mana along precise pathways, expanding and reinforcing his mana channels systematically. Lumi's voice rang softly, filled with encouragement, "You're almost there, Master. The 4th level is within reach." Orion smiled fiercely, his spiritual form blazing brilliantly. "Then let's complete this step fully." With his mana channels rapidly solidifying and expanding under the nourishment of the pure mana, Orion felt the barrier separating him from the 4th level thinning rapidly. His consciousness surged forward decisively, shattering through the final wall with a resounding spiritual impact that reverberated throughout his sea of consciousness. Orion felt the barrier shatter beneath the focused pressure of his consciousness, a resounding pulse echoing powerfully throughout his sea of consciousness. An overwhelming surge of joy and triumph filled him as the SOC began rapidly expanding. The top stretched infinitely higher, and the boundaries widened dramatically, doubling the previous size in mere moments. His sea of consciousness was now an expansive realm, stretching further than ever before. The vibrant energies of the World Tree seedling resonated harmoniously with this expansion, sending ripples of calming, nourishing energy throughout the entire expanse. Orion sensed his spiritual perception sharpening tremendously, every detail within his internal world becoming clearer, more vivid, more tangible. Yet, before he could fully relish the breakthrough into the 4th level, he felt another profound shift. A powerful surge of pure mana from the World Tree seedling began flowing through his expanding mana channels, reinforcing and widening them with majestic ease. Orion's excitement soared further as 9 new mana channels swiftly blossomed open, seamlessly integrating with the existing 27, raising the total to 36. "Incredible," Orion murmured, marveling at the seamless ease with which this usually strenuous process occurred. "The pure mana makes it feel effortless." Just as he thought the process would stabilize, the pure mana surged again, an unstoppable wave of vitality pushing his cultivation further. Orion's heart raced with exhilaration, his smile widening with eagerness and determination. "It's still going," Orion exclaimed joyously, his voice resonating throughout his inner realm. "Lumi, this breakthrough is beyond extraordinary." "Indeed, Master." Lumi's voice was jubilant, filled with happiness and admiration. "Your foundation is strengthening at an unprecedented rate." Once more, Orion guided the surging mana, channeling it meticulously through every mana channel, feeling them rapidly solidify and expand further. His sea of consciousness surged again, doubling once more in size. Another set of 9 mana channels blossomed open effortlessly, swelling the total count to 45. With each additional breakthrough, Orion's connection to mana deepened profoundly. He could sense his mana capacity increasing dramatically, each channel pulsing powerfully, resonating harmoniously with the surrounding pure mana. The mana channels felt robust, stable, and exceptionally refined, an unshakable foundation built swiftly yet perfectly. Excitement surged within Orion as he realized the breakthrough was not yet complete. The majestic flow of pure mana showed no signs of diminishing, its unstoppable momentum continuing to propel him forward. "Let's go further," Orion called out passionately, embracing the relentless tide of energy eagerly. He felt the barriers to the 5th level effortlessly crumble beneath his focused determination. Another powerful pulse echoed through his sea of consciousness, doubling its vast expanse yet again. Simultaneously, another wave of mana surged through his physical and spiritual forms, opening yet another set of 9 mana channels, elevating his total to 54. Orion's spiritual form radiated with profound brilliance, his presence exuding a sense of unmatched power and stability. "Peak Tier 6, Orion whispered, his voice vibrating with excitement. 54 mana channels. My cultivation has advanced beyond what I expected during this training session. I really caught up with the others in mere hours." Lumi's voice echoed softly, filled with warmth and pride. "Master, your foundation is also exceptionally stable due to the World Tree sapling. You directly reached the peak of Tier 6. Now you only need a little more accumulation to break through to the next level. Greater than over equal to 4 all less than over equal to." Indeed, Orion agreed with quiet amazement, his heart brimming with anticipation for the future. With this foundation, breaking through to Tier 7 in the future will be within reach. He got quiet as he floated within his vastly expanded sea of consciousness, its magnificent expanse glowing with vibrant hues and pulsing gently with pure mana. His spiritual figure hovered peacefully at the center, his expression one of satisfaction and excitement at the enormous breakthrough he'd just achieved. Taking a slow, deliberate breath to steady himself, Orion's eyes flickered with determination. "Now," he murmured calmly to himself, his voice echoing gently across the limitless expanse, "I should upgrade my spells and form the blood affinity rune as well." He turned his attention toward a distant corner of his sea of consciousness, where clusters of luminous affinity orbs hovered quietly, each glowing with distinct elemental hues that matched the elements he had affinity with. Among them was a unique orb that pulsed rhythmically with an eerie yet captivating scarlet light, the blood affinity orb. Orion reached out carefully, gently guiding it toward him with his spiritual consciousness. The orb floated gracefully, suspended serenely in front of him, its surface shimmering quietly as if eager to be integrated into his core. "Blood element," Orion murmured thoughtfully, a hint of solemnity evident in his voice. "Let's finally bring you under my full control." With that, Orion's spiritual avatar raised both hands, channeling his formidable spiritual strength to guide the blood orb into position. His fingers gracefully traced lines through the air, forming runic symbols that flickered and glowed vividly in the air around him. First came the origin glyph and then the structural layer, composed of the crucial primary runes essential for blood manipulation. 9 runes quickly emerged, elegantly forming a sophisticated structure. After a while, just as the affinity rune was about to form and the formation layer tightened around the completed affinity rune, something suddenly happened. Cracks appeared abruptly, spreading rapidly across the delicate structure. Orion watched calmly as the carefully constructed affinity rune shattered completely, dissolving into tiny motes of crimson energy. He exhaled lightly, eyes narrowing slightly. Good, now the reconstruction. Orion swiftly began the process again, not wanting to waste another second. This time he visualized 12 primary runes, each carefully chosen to support and strengthen the blood affinity rune. And after a while, he saw that the blood affinity rune pulsed magnificently with vibrant life, stabilizing fully without issue. Orion released a sigh of relief, his eyes gleaming triumphantly as he admired the newly formed rune. Finally done, he said aloud, a confident smirk forming across his face. The completed blood affinity rune hummed softly, resonating beautifully with his expansive sea of consciousness, instantly connecting deeply with his mana channels and spiritual essence. Feeling immensely satisfied, Orion contemplated thoughtfully for a moment, murmuring to himself with careful consideration, "Now that my blood affinity rune is fully stabilized at 12 runes, my blood spells will see immense boosts." Lumi hovered quietly beside him, her face lit up with a smile. "Master, you did it. Now your blood spells will be even stronger with this affinity rune." Orion smiled, nodding in agreement. "Indeed, Lil Lumi. With this affinity rune now in place, it's the perfect opportunity to learn new blood spells and upgrade my existing techniques." Pausing briefly, Orion carefully assessed his internal state and cultivation stability. Confident in his foundation, he murmured resolutely, "I should use a couple of days to learn some Tier 6 blood spells and elevate my existing spells to Tier 6 as well." Lumi's voice responded supportively, excitement and anticipation clear in her tone. "Yes, Master. With your current cultivation, you'll achieve incredible progress swiftly." Orion chuckled lightly, his eyes calmly looking at the formed affinity rune. "Let's start immediately." He calmly withdrew from his sea of consciousness, opening his physical eyes to find himself seated cross-legged upon the lush, vibrant grass within the silent hall cube. Without delay, Orion retrieved the Sanguine Sage Compendium once more, flipping quickly to the middle sections he'd carefully studied earlier. His eyes settled instantly upon powerful Tier 6 spells, each seemingly filled with devastating strength and potent versatility. Blood Nova, Scarlet Vortex, and Crimson Dominion. Orion murmured quietly, carefully tracing his fingers over the intricate spell diagrams depicted on the glowing pages. "These Tier 6 spells are quite something." Excitement flared within him, a sense of intense eagerness pushing him forward. "First, let's master Blood Nova," Orion whispered firmly, already visualizing its complex structure within his mind. High above the dark, ominous landscape, clouds swirled thickly like ink spilled upon parchment. Amidst these turbulent skies, the vampire general soared irritably, his dark cloak billowing behind him, scarlet eyes glaring fiercely at the world below. Frustration was clearly etched into his pale, angular features as his gaze darted anxiously from horizon to horizon, searching fruitlessly for the elusive prey his lord so desperately desired. "Where the fuck did that bastard go?" he hissed through gritted teeth, fangs gleaming menacingly under the gloomy sky. "Is he hiding in the sea or what? How come none of us can even find a single hint of him?" His clawed hands clenched and unclenched, impatience bubbling into outright fury. The general's frustration was palpable, his powerful wings beating faster in agitation. For days they had scoured every inch of the land, and yet Orion had vanished without leaving a trace. The humiliation of their previous encounter still burned fiercely within him, fueling his relentless determination. But just as the general's anger reached its boiling point, something subtly tugged at the edges of his senses, a faint yet distinct energy signature unlike anything he'd felt before. His head snapped sharply in the direction of the anomaly, eyes lighting up with cruel excitement and renewed hope. Finally, he whispered harshly, lips twisting into a sinister grin. "Seems luck hasn't entirely abandoned me." With a powerful beat of his leathery wings, he surged forward, hurtling through the air toward the distant energy source like a predator finally catching the scent of its prey. Meanwhile, Orion had just emerged from the silent hall cube, stepping gracefully onto the lush, vibrant grass that had grown densely beneath the cube's influence. Freshly changed into elegant yet battle-ready white robes, Orion exuded an air of confidence and nobility. His robes shimmered subtly with defensive enchantments, perfectly blending functionality and aesthetics. His long hair, now neatly tied back, revealed his calm and sharply defined features, enhancing his dignified aura. He strapped the Realm Guardian sword at his left hip, its familiar weight comforting and reassuring. Beside it, another finely crafted blade hung securely, polished and gleaming in the dim ambient light. Orion tightened a sturdy armguard meticulously onto his forearm, each movement precise, methodical, and deliberate. Suddenly, a familiar, hostile presence entered the edge of his heightened perception, rapidly closing in from afar. Orion calmly raised his head toward the horizon, a slow smile spreading across his lips, eyes glinting with playful excitement. "An old friend is coming," he murmured softly, voice filled with amused anticipation, I really should welcome him warmly. Gathering mana beneath his feet, Orion rose gracefully into the air, robes fluttering gently around him as he awaited the vampire general's swift approach. His expression remained composed and confident, his stance relaxed yet battle-ready. Within moments, the dark silhouette of the vampire general pierced through the heavy clouds, rapidly closing the distance, his aura flaring dangerously with intense killing intent. Scarlet eyes immediately locked onto Orion's calm figure, widening slightly in shock at the confidence and overwhelming aura Orion now radiated. Without hesitation, Orion smoothly drew the Realm Guardian sword, its blade singing softly with a crystalline resonance as if delighted to join the battle once again. Did you miss me? Orion called out mockingly, eyes alight with playful contempt. You insolent worm, the general roared, anger clearly overtaking his initial surprise. Don't think it'll end the same as last time. Ignoring the vampire's furious threat, Orion's lips curled into a faint, knowing smile. With a swift and elegant motion, he raised his blade, channeling an intense torrent of fire mana rapidly along its length. The blade instantly became enveloped in roaring crimson flames, burning fiercely with devastating heat. Blazing execution arc, Orion spoke softly, his voice resonating deeply with power and authority. With those words, the roaring flames surged violently, condensing into a radiant crescent-shaped arc of searing fire. The spell shot forward at blinding speed, slicing through the sky directly toward the stunned vampire general. For a fleeting instant, shock and realization flashed vividly across the vampire's face. His previous assumptions shattered in that single moment. Orion had never displayed spellcasting prowess in their last encounter, leading him to foolishly categorize Orion as merely a skilled warrior. Now, he faced the stark reality. Orion was both mage and warrior, and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Impossible, the vampire general gasped, hastily raising his arms defensively in desperation. The flames slammed into him with explosive force, sending him spiraling downward like a blazing comet. He crashed violently into the ground below, gouging out a deep, jagged crater. The impact sent a cloud of dirt and debris soaring skyward, scattering violently across the landscape. A tense silence briefly settled across the battlefield, only broken by the crackling remnants of Orion's powerful fire spell. Moments later, the vampire general slowly rose from the rubble, armor charred and smoking, his pale face now twisted into a mask of unrestrained fury. His eyes blazed scarlet, filled with an intense hatred reserved solely for Orion. You, filthy human, he snarled, voice trembling dangerously. I'll rip you apart limb by limb. Hovering calmly above, Orion looked at his enraged opponent with indifference. He smoothly pointed the Realm Guardian sword downward, fire jumping gracefully along its blade, illuminating his calm, composed features in flickering crimson light. You already had your chance once, bloodsucker, Orion said coldly, voice dripping with undisguised disdain. Now it's my turn to properly entertain you. His spiritual presence surged powerfully, elemental runes activating along his mana channels, readying an array of devastating spells he'd meticulously mastered over the past days. He calmly smiled, looking at the crater below, and said with an evil smile, let's play now. The battlefield stood silent for a heartbeat, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The once lush terrain around Orion had become scorched and rugged from the ferocity of his opening strike. A faint haze of smoke and ember drifted gently in the air, casting a surreal, flickering glow across the grim landscape. Hovering in the air, Orion watched with a relaxed expression as the vampire general clawed himself upward from the crater, his armor battered and partially melted. The general snarled viciously, scarlet eyes blazing with pure fury and indignation. With a guttural growl, he clenched his fists tightly, his pale, vampiric body trembling violently as his fury surged beyond restraint. Suddenly, he threw his head back, roaring fiercely into the clouded skies above. His voice reverberated deeply, echoing like rolling thunder across the battlefield. In the blink of an eye, the vampire general's body swelled, muscles bulging grotesquely beneath pallid skin as he rapidly shifted into his complete vampire form. Crimson runes etched themselves into his skin, pulsing ominously with each beat of his accelerated heart, Dark, leathery wings spread from his back, casting a menacing shadow as he surged into the sky. Black veins crawled along his visage, highlighting the profound and terrifying transformation. "You're dead, bastard," the vampire snarled, voice deeper, resonant, and filled with malevolence. "This is the price of humiliating me." Orion remained hovering above, unfazed and calm, the Realm Guardian sword shimmering gently in his grasp, its flames quietly dancing along the blade. He raised an eyebrow, amused by the general's bravado, and softly chuckled. "You seem awfully confident, considering how easily you fell earlier," Orion mocked, deliberately provoking his opponent. "But I suppose it wouldn't be as satisfying if you didn't try your hardest." With a roar, the vampire lunged forward, propelled by powerful wing beats. Dark blood-red energy swirled around him, merging seamlessly with shadows coalescing along his claws. He slashed fiercely at Orion, creating razor-sharp arcs of blood-infused darkness. Orion calmly sidestepped, narrowly avoiding the strikes, his movements calm and fluid. "Pathetic," Orion whispered quietly, a faint smirk on his lips. The general spun around furiously, eyes glowing fiercely. "Scarlet Abyss," he cried out harshly, conjuring an immense vortex of crimson and shadow energy spiraling violently toward Orion. Orion's eyes sharpened in recognition of the potent combination of blood and darkness elements, but his expression remained unperturbed. He raised his palm calmly and said softly, "Sylvan Bastion." Immediately, a thick dome of radiant, emerald vines burst forth from the ground, interweaving rapidly around Orion in the air. The general's vortex crashed forcefully against the barrier, but the vibrant green vines merely pulsed softly, absorbing and diffusing the corrupted energy with ease. The vampire general stared in disbelief, eyes widening with shocked rage. "Impossible. How can you block my blood and darkness attack with mere wood element?" Orion's voice drifted calmly from within his defensive bastion. "You clearly lack knowledge. Let me demonstrate further." Swiftly dissolving the vine barrier, Orion extended his hand and chanted calmly, "Infernal Lance." Instantly, a fiery spear shot forth at blistering speed, piercing effortlessly through the vampire's hastily raised blood shield. The general cried out in agony as flames seared deep into his flesh, burning intensely from within. His anguished screams echoed harshly, yet Orion's expression remained indifferent, eyes filled with curiosity. Enraged beyond reason, the vampire unleashed wave after wave of shadowy blood blades, frenzied attacks slashing desperately through the air toward Orion. Yet, Orion calmly evaded each strike with precise dodges. He countered leisurely, each spell calculated to test the limits of his improved spells. "Chain lightning," Orion spoke coolly, sending electric arcs leaping rapidly through the general's weakened defenses, shocking and staggering him repeatedly. As the general recoiled, Orion chanted, "Forest's Wrath." Dense, unbreakable vines erupted suddenly from the ground, wrapping mercilessly around the general, immobilizing him completely. Struggling frantically against his restraints, the vampire spat curses and threats, red eyes blazing with hatred. Orion descended gracefully, calmly watching his restrained opponent. His expression became contemplative as he murmured softly, "Crimson Crown." Above his head, an ethereal, blood-red crown materialized, emanating an eerie resonance. The general stared upward in confused horror as the crown absorbed droplets of his own spilled blood, channeling them ominously into itself. Orion smirked faintly, voice dripping with mockery. "Don't look so surprised. Your blood will serve a far nobler purpose." The general held furiously, dark energy bursting forth, finally breaking free. Lunging recklessly, he unleashed his strongest attack yet, a massive sphere of dark, corrupted blood energy hurtling toward Orion. Orion merely raised his sword gracefully, whispering, "Stormpiercer bolt." Lightning surged forth, shattering the general's strongest strike effortlessly. The vampire, stunned and disoriented, stumbled back, gasping heavily as Orion closed the gap with deliberate calmness. "You've been helpful in testing my improved spells," Orion said gently, as if speaking casually to a friend. "But your usefulness ends here." Gathering fierce flames once more, Orion called out decisively, "Blazing execution arc." The blazing arc surged forward relentlessly, carving through the vampire's failing defenses, slicing deeply into him as they exploded violently. Screaming in agony, the general fell helplessly, body scorched and battered. His monstrous form faded, reverting to his weakened humanoid state as he knelt heavily on the charred earth, breath ragged and shallow. Orion calmly landed in front of him, examining him coldly. "You disappoint me, truly. Is this all your race can muster?" The general spat weakly, voice bitter and hateful. "Lord Valerian will avenge me, your arrogance will cost you everything." Orion laughed quietly, disdainfully shaking his head. "No. When Valerian faces me, I'll ensure he pays dearly. You're merely the appetizer." He raised a finger, crimson mana swirling gently as the crimson crown above absorbed even more of the general's spilled blood. It shimmered brilliantly, slowly charging with potent energy as it hung above Orion's head ominously. "For now," Orion continued softly, "I'll keep your blood within my crown, reserved as a special gift for your beloved leader." The vampire general's eyes widened in horror, realization dawning upon him too late. What are you planning?" Orion simply smiled coldly, eyes gleaming mercilessly. I shall let you die as a curious ghost." His voice hung ominously in the air as his cold smile deepened. Without another word, he lifted the Realm Guardian sword gracefully, flames dancing serenely along its blade. The vampire general, on his knees, desperately tried to summon his remaining strength, attempting to rise, yet his battered body refused to obey. "Wait," the vampire general shouted and gritted his teeth, eyes widening in sudden realization and fear. But Orion moved with ruthlessness. In a fluid, elegant motion, the sword sliced effortlessly through the air, cleanly severing the vampire's head from his shoulders. For a split second, the vampire general's expression froze, etched in horror and disbelief, before his head rolled away, landing softly onto the scorched ground. Dark blood spilled freely, staining the earth with the general's ignoble demise. Orion sheathed his blade calmly, exhaling softly as he looked at the now lifeless body with indifference. A moment of silence filled the battlefield, the only sound the faint crackling of the lingering flames. Finally silenced, Orion murmured quietly, more to himself than anyone else. Before the quiet could linger too long, a cheerful, excited voice chimed beside him, breaking the solemnity. "Master! You killed him so effortlessly." Lumi said energetically, her system screen form bouncing cheerfully in midair. Orion chuckled softly, his eyes warming slightly as he glanced toward Lumi. "Yes, after my improvements, I can easily fight someone a level above me, at least among these bloodsuckers." His gaze drifted thoughtfully toward the vampire general's corpse. "But still, they are far stronger than even geniuses like my club members. I wonder what's up with that." His contemplation was abruptly cut short, senses suddenly tingling sharply. Orion's head snapped upward, his eyes narrowing sharply as he felt multiple powerful presences rapidly approaching from the horizon. Each aura radiated a familiar sinister energy, marked by that unmistakable bloodlust and darkness. Orion calmly rose into the air, robes fluttering gently as he surveyed the approaching threats. Within moments, shadowy figures burst from the horizon, swiftly closing the distance with astonishing speed. One by one, 9 vampire generals appeared, their scarlet eyes locked unerringly onto Orion, their expressions fierce and resolute. Far away, seated comfortably upon his ornate throne within the massive, shadow-draped war chariot, Valerian observed the spatial storms surrounding the titanic celestial staff slowly dissipating. His pale fingers tapped rhythmically upon the armrest, eyes reflecting quiet anticipation and intrigue. Suddenly, Valerian's serene expression shifted slightly, his crimson eyes glancing sharply toward a distant horizon. His lips curled slowly into a delighted, malevolent smile, sensing clearly what had just transpired. "Oh? You defeated my general?" Valerian's voice was soft, cultured, yet laced with a dangerous edge. "Good. Finally, someone worth my time here." Raising one hand gracefully, he extended his senses outward, locating Orion's presence clearly. With a subtle motion, he transmitted Orion's exact location directly to the consciousnesses of his 9 remaining generals. Bring him to me alive, Valerian commanded softly, his voice echoing in their minds. Don't fail me again. Instantly, the generals responded, halting their futile global search and pivoting sharply in Orion's direction. Each one surged forward, powerful wings beating furiously, a collective storm of violent energies tearing across the sky toward their prey. Valerian leaned back comfortably into his throne, the faint smile lingering as he softly murmured, "Let's see how you fare now, little draconian. Don't disappoint me." Back on the battlefield, Orion watched silently as the vampire generals swiftly surrounded him, each hovering ominously at equal distance, creating a deadly ring. Their eyes glowed with malicious intent, their powerful auras blending together in a suffocating pressure meant to intimidate. One of the generals, a towering figure cloaked in dark armor, sneered disdainfully. "You may have defeated that useless bastard, but your luck ends here, human." Another general, a slender female vampire whose beauty was marred by an aura of cruelty, laughed mockingly, "Our lord wants you alive, but he didn't say unharmed." Orion calmly unsheathed both of his blades, the realm guardian sword shimmering fiercely with fiery power, and the secondary sword glowing quietly with thunder mana. He rotated his wrists slightly, adjusting his grip, unperturbed by the overwhelming threat surrounding him. A general with a muscular, scarred physique snarled impatiently, "Surrender now and save yourself needless agony." Orion tilted his head slightly, an amused smirk curling his lips. "Oh? And miss this perfect chance to test my limits?" The generals exchanged glances, a mix of irritation evident in their expressions. The female vampire's eyes narrowed, irritation flashing across her beautiful yet sinister features. "Foolish arrogance. We'll teach you humility soon enough." Orion chuckled softly, his presence suddenly expanding, a surge of elemental mana flowing mightily through his mana channels. Around him, sparks of lightning crackled gently, fiery embers danced serenely, and vibrant life energy radiated softly. Above his head, the crimson crown shimmered silently, patiently waiting to absorb more blood. He looked around at each general carefully, calmly assessing their strength. "So, it's your turn now, huh?" Orion's voice was cool, even, yet laced with excitement. The muscular general growled fiercely, losing patience. "Enough talk. Capture him." With precision, all 9 generals lunged simultaneously, their energies erupting violently toward Orion in a devastating, synchronized assault. Yet Orion stood his ground, a calm determination gleaming sharply within his dual-colored eyes. "Perfect," he murmured softly, his lips twitching upward into a confident smile as he flexed his swords. "Come at me. All of you." And in that brief instant, before their attacks landed, Orion's calm, confident smirk slowly widened into a ferocious grin as he allowed the energy within him to erupt forth unrestrained. In that instant, the world trembled beneath the suffocating pressure of his unleashed power. Crimson lightning began crackling violently across his skin, illuminating the grim battlefield in vivid scarlet hues. His eyes flared brilliantly, twin orbs of searing flame and crackling lightning. "Witness true strength." Orion roared, his voice booming with draconic authority. His body expanded rapidly, muscular frame bulging and reshaping as he ascended into the mighty lightning draconian form. 3 meters tall and radiating an overwhelming majesty, Orion's scales shimmered beautifully in shades of crimson gold and vibrant electric blue. 2 pairs of immense draconic wings spread wide, lightning leaping freely between them. He swapped the smaller sword for a larger one while his realm guardian enlarged to fit his clawed hands. The 9 vampire generals hesitated, their advance momentarily stalled by the sheer dominance of Orion's transformation. But their collective pride swiftly overcame caution. With synchronized snarls, they shot forward, the sky trembling beneath the thunderous fury of their combined assault. "Die, arrogant beast," the muscular general bellowed, darkness and blood mana swirling around him, forming gigantic, claw-like appendages to slash Orion apart. Simultaneously, the female general summoned swarms of razor-sharp crimson spears, each one infused with sinister darkness. "I'll impale your miserable body and drain you dry." Ignoring their boasts, Orion launched himself directly into the heart of their formation. The space around him fractured violently as his twin swords roared with intermediate-grade sword auras, one blazing fiercely with fire, the other crackling explosively with thunder. The impact was instantaneous and catastrophic. The swords collided with the darkness-infused claws of the muscular vampire, producing a world-shaking shockwave that rippled outward. The sheer force instantly erased mountains beneath, sending devastating earthquakes across the vast land and wiping entire cities clean from existence. Tens of millions of tigerkin and lionkin perished immediately, their cries silenced by the merciless spatial distortions tearing through the lower world.